this camera.
Footprints too large to fake. Audio too strange to explain. And now experts are finally breaking their silence. What if the creature we dismissed was never a myth at all? For decades, whispers of a towering figure in the forest echoed across North America. Skeptics laughed, but the laughter's fading. New footage, scientific analysis, and chilling encounters have left even seasoned experts rethinking what's possible. Could Bigfoot really exist? In this video, we dive into the newest evidence, expert breakdowns, and the questions that science is no longer ignoring.
Something in the distance. At first we thought it was a bear, but it seemed more bipedal. So it seemed more upright. It appeared to have kind of a conish type head. So you watch the video and you decide.
Under the cloak of nightfall, a young man set out on a path few would willingly choose. Not for fame, not for thrills, but for challenge. Beneath the towering trees and across the hushed slopes of Berkeley's ridgelines, Angel Diaz stepped into the shadows with a camera in hand and uncertainty in his breath. On his YouTube channel, Angel Diaz 365, this wasn't just content. It was a raw confrontation with fear, lit only by a headlamp and the flicker of a personal promise. He had just left class, drained and doubtful. The streets behind him buzzed with nightlife, bars full, parties rising. But Angel's night would be defined by something more primal. As the trail narrowed and city lights slipped away, the wilderness began to answer. Every snapping twig pulled his mind deeper into possibilities. The lonely crackhead in the bushes, the silence behind every tree, the sense of being watched. Watch yourself.
I'm going up there. It's so dark and scary. I've never ever done this hike at night. That's why I brought the headlamp, but dude, I'm literally scared of the dark. I just remembered. How is this gonna work? Probably literally my biggest fear is being in the dark by myself. Oh, I think I hear shit already. Why am I doing this?
His voice trembled, not from acting, but from an authentic reckoning with the dark. With each step, his headlamp painted faint outlines on uneven stairs swallowed by the forest. He questioned everything. Why was he doing this? Was a fitness challenge really worth walking blind into the unknown? His fear wasn't just cinematic. It was wired into him since childhood. Nightmares of being chased, locked doors he couldn't open, dreams where fear pressed closer than breath. This wasn't hyperbole. This was embedded trauma. Still, he climbed. Still, he spoke to the lens as if it were the only steady thing guiding him. Then it appeared. In the thickets ahead, movement, a massive shape, low to the ground with a tail slicing the air. He froze. It wasn't imagination. It wasn't a squirrel, not a shadow. Something real, something alive. A fox, a stray dog, or worse, something built for silence and death. A mountain lion? Watch yourself.
Bro, I had to hear shit. Oh my god, what is that, what is that? Dude, I think I just saw something with a tail. Dude, that's a fox. Bro, it can't be a wolf. Dude, I'm supposed to go over there.
Panic surged. Knife drawn, his instincts fired in every direction. Run, hide, continue. In a moment suspended between rationality and survival, Angel didn't run away. He moved forward. His Apple Watch couldn't confirm if it was a lion, but the fear in his voice left no doubt. The danger was real. His mind spiraled, but his feet kept moving. Plastic knife gripped, breath jagged, eyes scanning through fogged lenses of adrenaline. For many, this is where the story would end. A shaky retreat, a confession of terror. But Angel's story had another act. He made it past the shadow. And as the path opened, so did the view. A skyline awash in amber. a reward only seen by those who dared to climb past the fear. He paused, breath still short, heart still racing, and offered something unexpected.
Oh, it's just little reindeer. Bro, y'all were scaring the fuck out of me. Oh, I could breathe. Or at least these are reindeer. The other one, I swear I saw a big ass furry tail. You see, at least y'all know I wasn't tweaking. There is animals here.
Reflection. This wasn't just a hike, it was a lesson. That sometimes fear doesn't disappear, you just walk through it. The danger doesn't dissolve, you just stop letting it own you. Watch yourself as he turns the lens outward to the cityscape below.
We did it. We made it to the top. We made it to the top. Not gonna lie, I was a little scared. But we conquered that. Let me show you. See? Imagine if I would have stopped just because I saw a little silly mountain lion.
Then back to himself. He had faced something primal, something ancient, and he hadn't backed down. For Angel, 75, hard wasn't just about cold showers and clean meals. It was about moments like this, when the only thing between him and failure was the choice to keep going. Angel Diaz's video isn't polished. It's not produced in a studio or cut with special effects, but it's honest. It's exactly what YouTube should sometimes be. A raw moment of humanity in the dark, on a hill, with a trembling voice still daring to narrate. If you've ever faced a moment where fear nearly stopped you cold, where your past traumas whispered, "Turn back," this video is your mirror. And maybe, just maybe, it's your reminder that the unknown isn't always the enemy. Sometimes it's the only way forward. Mike Patterson, the voice behind Sasquatch Ontario, has spent over a decade chronicling a phenomenon most dismiss without question. Since 2008, and more profoundly since 2012, his experiences have not been of the fleeting kind. These are ongoing relationships, deepening year after year. In his view, Sasquatch are not beasts lurking in shadows. They are a people, intelligent, ancient, and not from this dimension alone. He describes them as an interdimensional human type, reaching out through trust, not fear, dismantling our accepted paradigms one encounter at a time.
You know, what and who the Sasquatch are, from my understanding, they're an ancient people, they're interdimensional. You know, we are on the precipice of this being blown wide open, right?
This story isn't about blurry photos or speculative howls in the night. It's about direct contact, and it begins with 4 tracks in the snow, 3 juvenile, 1 adult. The prints appear out of nowhere, silent and precise, left deliberately, perhaps even ceremonially. As Mike and his longtime friend Dwayne examine the spacing, something unexpected happens. A sudden thump against Mike's shoulder interrupts the quiet. A snowball, flung with pinpoint force, crashes into him out of nowhere. Dwayne, standing beside him, didn't throw it, nor could he have at that speed. Laughter follows, not their own. A vocalization, distinct and young, breaks through the cold air, recorded by the camera but unheard in real time. Watch yourself.
1. Oh, I just got hit with a snowball. I just got whacked. I just got hit in the shoulder, man.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I saw that.
What you're hearing is Ninyanen, a young male Sasquatch, identified through years of subtle interaction and unmistakable personality. This wasn't the first time Mike had been targeted with snowballs, nor was it the first time this playful figure had made his presence known. Ninyanen's been around for years, described by Mike as a prankster, an endearing presence who never veers into harm. In fact, according to Mike, this teenager has likely been given more freedom by his family, stepping into human interaction more boldly than others. What might seem childish or trivial, like flinging snow, has profound implications when it comes from a being existing in both our realm and another. The audio captured on that day is not an isolated incident. Mike references another clip, an indoor vocalization from a family member named Neff, heard during a completely different interaction. The voices, he says, are strikingly similar. This continuity in vocal pattern hints at something deeper: individual identity, familial connection, and intention. These aren't random events. They're traceable, personal, and part of an unfolding story known only to those who choose to listen. And compare the tones yourself.
Oh, see that? Did you see that? Look, right there. That hole right there in the snow. That just came over my shoulder.
Is that right?
Yeah, right there.
The encounter, recorded in February 2021, is only now being released. Mike admits that not everything makes it to the public. Some moments are too personal, others too sacred. The trust built between human and Sasquatch is fragile and hard-earned. These moments, like the snowball or the unseen giggle, are not performances for an audience. They're acknowledgments of connection, of trust earned over years, not minutes. Mike believes these beings are here to help, not in a savior mythos, but as catalysts for awakening. He recounts one telepathic message where, when asked why they chose to stay in that location rather than retreat to safety, they responded with a single word: help. It's a profound moment, one that reframes the entire narrative from something mysterious and aloof to something compassionate and engaged. Watch yourself to hear that philosophy unfold in his own voice. From footprint impressions revealing distinct toe pads to the consistent sound signatures of vocalizations, Mike documents it all. He runs multiple audio rigs through his vehicle sunroof, records night after night, and catalogs the strange and unexplainable. And in doing so, he paints a portrait not of chaos, but of a structured, intelligent presence that doesn't fit within the narrow confines of current scientific thought. This was not a hunt. This was a visit. So here's the question that lingers. What if the greatest scientific breakthrough of our age isn't hiding in a lab, but watching from the tree line? What if all it takes to begin contact is trust? If you've ever felt that chill in the forest, or caught a glimpse of something just beyond the edge of reason, now is the time to start asking questions. What do you believe about Sasquatch? Have you experienced something you can't explain? Drop your thoughts in the comments and share this video with someone still on the fence. It's time to talk about what's real, no matter how impossible it seems. If you think all cryptid sightings happen deep in some forgotten wilderness, think again. What you're about to witness unfolds just off a narrow horse trail, a place where the trees lean close, the air is heavy, and the silence feels unnatural. Many call it superstition, others call it madness, but after watching this footage, you might call it something else entirely. Watch yourself. This is where the tone shifts.
I am 6'3", and I'm looking straight across to the area where he raised his head and pushed his snout through.
Scott Carpenter walks the audience into the heart of the forest that, as he says, still gives me the creeps. His voice is calm, but the tension is undeniable. He's not just recounting a memory. He's standing in the exact spot where he saw the dogman not once, but twice. The trail is narrow. The trees crowd in, and just beyond them lies the isolated island where the creature made eye contact with him. This isn't some distant ridge or a blurred shadow in the canopy. It stood right there, close enough to touch. The video is quiet, but the forest hums with unease. Scott revisits the feeding station he once used for Bigfoot encounters, now abandoned and disturbed. Rocks and food offerings used to be left here. But that's not what stayed. What stayed was something else. Something watching. As Scott moves deeper, he shows the spot where he found the footprint, 11 to 12 inches long. The ground was wet when the print was made, the impression still fresh when he found it. This wasn't an echo of the past. This was recent, active, ongoing. And then he brings us to the blowdown. The dog man was right back there watching me. He says, no theatrics, no dramatization. Just a man revisiting the exact place where he once stood unaware, being watched from just feet away. The foliage is dense. The path is overgrown. But the fear is real. An old well stands nearby, one of those deep, forgotten holes that folklore always warns us about. Scott notes that old wells and paranormal activity often go hand in hand. Coincidence? Maybe, but then he says it. He was standing no more than 4 feet from where the dogman emerged.
This is very close. And he was just right there. At the time, this tree that you see here was not here. This little tree had not fallen.
Let that sink in. 4 feet. The creature rose up, pushed its snout through cedar branches, and looked directly at him. Scott was filming the opposite direction at the time, using a back trail camera mounted on his shoulder. When he turned slightly to adjust his angle, just a small rotation, that's when the dogman vanished back into the foliage. Gone, but not forgotten. It's in that brief rotation, that slight motion, where most viewers miss the true terror. Because Scott wasn't caught off guard in some dreamlike haze. He was alert, he was armed. And even then, he didn't see it until he reviewed the footage. That's how stealthy the encounter was. Watch yourself. Scott returns to the scene of the March 27, 2011 incident. He's standing on the same trail, in front of the same island where he had once focused his attention. Unaware that just over his shoulder, the dogman was silently watching from the brush. The footage shows the exact gap in the trees where the dogman's snout appeared, level with a man standing over 6 feet tall. And this wasn't a trick of perspective. There were no barriers between them, no fallen trees, no gaps to explain it away. Only a few feet of open trail. That moment, Scott recalls, still haunts him. Because that creature, whether flesh and blood or something far stranger, was close enough to reach out and touch him. And yet, it didn't. Why not? The final stretch of the video walks us through the dogman's movements, how it paralleled Scott along the trail, how it maneuvered behind a massive tree before sneaking a look. Not aggressively, not curiously, deliberately, like a predator testing its prey. Watch yourself. So now, the question isn't whether the dogman exists. The real question is, how often are they this close? And we just never know. If you found this footage disturbing, or if it mirrors an experience you've never dared to talk about, don't stay silent. Leave a comment. Share your thoughts. Have you ever felt something following you off trail? Have you stood on a path and known you weren't alone? Because what happened in this forest may not be an isolated event. And the next time someone tells you dogmen aren't real, send them this video and tell them to watch themselves. The Florida swamps don't ask for attention. They take it. A place where light struggles to pierce the canopy, and every step could land you ankle-deep in mystery. The ordinary hiker might glance around, wary of gators and snakes. But those who look closer, those who listen when the world goes silent, sometimes they find something else, something watching. What you're about to witness is not a tale told around campfires. It's a boots-on-the-ground chronicle of one man who has spent a decade turning whispers into evidence. He is not a celebrity researcher. He is not welcomed by exclusive organizations or praised in flashy blogs. He is simply someone who has gone further, stayed longer, and refused to come back empty-handed. From deep within Florida's wetlands, the YouTube channel Florida Sasquatch emerges as a raw, unfiltered catalog of potential proof. Audio recordings captured in the black of night, still photos that may reveal something hulking just beyond the tree line, and FLIR footage that flickers with unexplainable shapes. Some call it skunk ape, others, the Florida Bigfoot. Either way, what's happening here deserves more than a shrug. Watch yourself as the researcher compares a chilling vocalization captured in 2010 to a sound previously archived by the BFRO in 2006.
It is very well possible that this is the Florida Bigfoot or the skunk ape, but there's no doubt in my mind, based on the pitch and tone of this animal, even though the vocal was not as drawn out as the other one.
The tone and pitch are nearly identical. Though shorter, the sound betrays the same deep, resonant signature. This isn't speculation, it's comparison. Technology against memory. Field data against archived audio. But even recordings pale in comparison to what was captured on a November day near Pine Island. A photo, not video, though that was the intention, shows a figure mid-stride across a clearing. At first, the image seems like one of countless blurry shots circulating online. But as you zoom in, details sharpen. The eyes, the arms, the broad shoulders and massive leg muscles take form. Not imagined, not drawn, photographed. To examine the shot for yourself, you'll see what he saw, what many others refuse to acknowledge.
Detail emerges. You can see the face, you can see the eyes, the deltoids, thick bicep, thick triceps, a forearm.
A figure caught moving with the precision and muscle of a primate, yet undeniably bipedal. There's no trick of light, no overreaching interpretation, just clear anatomical features frozen in motion. The type of image skeptics often demand, but seldom accept. Still, photographs and sound bites haven't been enough to break through the velvet ropes of mainstream cryptid circles. Despite presenting hundreds of hours of research, this man's work has been overshadowed by anecdotal accounts, often unaccompanied by a single shred of proof. Eyewitnesses lauded as experts, storytellers praised while field evidence gathers dust. The frustration is palpable and justified, and yet the response hasn't been retreat. It's been escalation. Enter the Seminole Project, a network of stealth cameras buried deep in Florida's harshest, most inaccessible swamps, already active, already watching. These devices don't blink, they don't embellish. What they record will go to the few researchers willing to look without bias. Derek Randalls, Tim Stover, First Billy Jack, and anthropologist Dr. David Degling. No filter, no gatekeeping, and you'll feel the shift, not just in tone, but in atmosphere.
Can you hear the footsteps over the plane? Boy, there's a lot of glare on this camera.
As the figure crouches low and pivots its head like a gorilla, the brush explodes with startled birds. The camera struggles with glare, the air crackles with unease, and something massive disappears into silence. Again, it's not theatrical, it's not staged, it's real-time dread. For those who still question whether the evidence adds up, he offers this. The BFRO declined to include him. Cryptomundo refused to feature his work, and yet what he's captured stands shoulder to shoulder, if not above, much of what fills those sites. While others recount tales from campgrounds and distant trails, this man is 300 days a year in the mud, the dark, and the heat, coming back with more than just stories. So ask yourself, when the next photo surfaces, when another vocal hits the web, will it be easier to dismiss it? Or will it finally be time to ask, what if the truth has been right here in Florida all along? If this is your first time hearing about the Florida Sasquatch Project, dive into the evidence yourself. Does it convince you or challenge your beliefs? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you've had your own encounter, we want to hear it. Subscribe for more boots-on-the-ground investigations that don't just ask the questions, they chase the answers. Few who enter the Florida swamps ever return the same. There's something about the stillness, the weight of silence, that feels off. those who wander long enough begin to notice it. A distant knock that wasn't a tree, a whistle without wind, and eventually, that deep guttural sound that makes the hair on your neck rise before your brain can catch up. What you're about to see isn't for entertainment. It's a window into the unknown, where each step forward risks crossing an invisible threshold, from curious explorer to unwelcome trespasser. As the team returns to the fridge site, a location carefully gifted and marked from previous expeditions. The plastic still hangs, the tobacco remains, even the marble and stone offering, left on the rag, untouched.
And we're here at the famous fridge. Yeah. The chew I left still here. Tobacco Joey left still here.
But something's changed. Items once placed with intent are now absent. A stick arrangement by Max is missing, though his stone remains. Only a handful of people, fewer than a dozen, have even been out here. And yet something's rearranging the forest. Beyond the brush, they move toward the skunk spot, deeper than before, hearts pounding in a strange rhythm. This place isn't just visited, it's watched. The original discovery of the fridge had come after a double knock echoing from the direction they now approach. That knock still haunts them, not because of its volume, but because of its precision, as if a signal, as if a boundary had been crossed, and something on the other side had responded. They settle into a clearing near the log, equipment primed. The team begins using experimental frequencies, tuning forks, dog whistles, deer grunts, all aimed at testing a theory. Can sound draw out a presence? The moment is tense. The EMF detector lights up yellow, then red. A low whistle floats in, subtle, not human. Vibrations are felt through the log.
We're getting hits here, EMF detectors, and there was something out here.
Yeah, something out that way. I tried a dog whistle, deer grunt, doe call, nothing.
The fridge, left untouched for months, now hums faintly beneath their feet. One whispers they feel it in their spine, like sitting on a purring engine. That's when the atmosphere shifts. A breeze whips up as the EMF begins pulsing again. The tuning fork, long stored away in a backpack, somehow echoes faintly. Chris hadn't touched it in 5 minutes, but multiple members claim to hear it again, vibrating near the fridge. It's not imagination, it's spatial, audible, surrounding them. Something mimics the tool's frequency, as if repeating it, testing them. A presence they cannot see, yet feel closing in. It's not just detection anymore, it's interaction. In the silence that follows, they catch movement, a soft rustle, then that unmistakable smell, pungent, musky, like skunk, but not quite.
I caught a whoop ahead of us. I don't know if any of our equipment will catch it or not because there was a lot of, foot noise. But it was one single whoop, looked like that.
The same odor that's marked previous encounters. Whispers pass between the group. Someone heard a whistle, another, a branch snapping, but there's no visual. The forest holds its secrets tight, and then it hits. A resonant sound, guttural and deep, closer than any of them expected. The kind of vocalization that bypasses logic and speaks to something ancient in the human brain. Danger. Something big is out here, and it knows exactly where they are. They stand frozen. The tuning fork sound is heard again, though it's packed away.
Oh, did you hear that? Did you hear that?
You just stepped on something.
No, I didn't. That was behind.
Did. Chris.
No, it was back this way.
Their equipment flares without warning. Voices drop to whispers. There is no panic, but there is awe, and a growing, mutual realization. They're no longer tracking something, it's tracking them. The game has flipped.
Let's pull back. That was sizable.
He's coming.
Okay, let's go. Let's go. It's not safe. No.
Night begins to fall over the swamp. Long shadows stretch across the underbrush. The forest becomes a mirror, reflecting every fear, every question. every truth they've tried to ignore. And in that darkness, there's clarity. The line between myth and reality is no longer blurry. It's shattered. This wasn't just another night in the woods. This was a communication, a warning, maybe even a test. The skunk ape, or whatever force moves through these trees, has acknowledged them, not as lost hikers, but as intruders. And now the question lingers like smoke in the humid air. If this was the last day of the expedition, what would have happened had they stayed one day longer? There are places in Florida that no map can truly define, corridors of wilderness that hold more than gators and cypress trees. What lives there is watching, and sometimes it answers. If you've ever doubted that something walks the wild places of this world, think again. Could specific frequencies really lure out an unseen intelligence? Why did the tuning fork echo when no one held it? Was that just coincidence? Or something far stranger? Share your thoughts below. What do you believe? What would you do if something massive stepped out of the trees, watching you without fear, without blinking? Would you keep going, or freeze with the weight of something not meant to be seen? A man cycling through a dense, unmarked trail did neither. He simply kept recording. What followed has now become one of the most compelling uploads on the YouTube channel Bigfoot's Testimony. A raw, unedited moment that leaves little room for trickery, and even less for doubt. There was no plan, no expedition, just a simple ride through forest thick with shadow, underbrush swallowing the path, and silence that felt almost too perfect. The camera shakes slightly with every push of the pedals, branches scrape past, and birdsong echoes faintly overhead. Then, something shifts. A shape moves to the left, framed briefly between two pines. It doesn't run, it doesn't flinch. At around the 13-second mark, when played back in slow motion, that shape reveals itself to be tall, towering even. Broad-shouldered, upright, and covered in dark, matted hair from head to foot. Watch yourself.
It'd be stupid to walk out here in a suit. You'd get shot. And his hair's gray and black. Is that gray? Is that snow?
As the rider passes, the camera captures what he couldn't process in real time. A large humanoid figure standing perfectly still between the trees. Its posture is natural, not posed. The arms hang longer than a man's. Its neck, if there is one, disappears into powerful shoulders. And the height, an estimated 7 to 8 feet, makes it impossible to mistake for another human. No costume, no seams, no cutaway edit. The man doesn't scream. He doesn't react, because in the moment, he didn't even notice. It was only later, reviewing his ride, that the image surfaced. Something had been there. Something was watching.
Oh yeah, right there, look.
What is that?
Where'd it go?
Uploaded to Bigfoot's Testimony, a channel with over 300,000 subscribers and a growing archive of forest encounters, this clip quickly sparked a flood of speculation. But this wasn't one of their typical submission-style stories. It was just raw footage, no narration, no claim of truth or fiction, just a simple title. I would be out of there too. Bigfoot sighting.
Something in the distance. At first I thought we thought it was a bear, but it seemed more bipedal. So it seemed more upright. It appeared to have kind of a conish type head. So you watch the video and you decide.
It struck viewers for exactly what it was, not a performance, not an attempt at YouTube glory. A real moment, captured in the wild, where there was no time to frame a shot or prepare a reaction. It's this kind of encounter that challenges people the most, because it wasn't expected. It just happened. Frame by frame, as viewers dig deeper, more details surface. The limb ratio, the way the figure stands, relaxed but not human. The slope of the brow, the wide stance, the stillness, not frozen in fear, but in observation. Whatever it was, it knew it had been seen, but it didn't care. And then, just as naturally, it turns and disappears behind a column of pine wood. No rustle, no chase, no sound. The forest closes behind it like it was never there. There are no jump cuts, no filters, no dramatic music. Just the eerie quiet that follows after the camera pans forward again, as if nothing happened. But the footage is undeniable. Skeptics search for flaws, claiming maybe it's a misidentified bear or a trick of shadow and movement. But they struggle to explain the height, the form, the stillness that doesn't match panic or confusion. More than anything, the video's power comes from its simplicity. It doesn't shout, "This is Bigfoot." It whispers, "Look again." This encounter, one man's unintended brush with something impossible, asks the questions we all try to bury. What if we're not alone in the woods? Do you believe this was a real sighting? Have you ever caught something in the corner of your eye that didn't belong? Something tall, dark, and watching? What if you were already being watched, long before you heard that first branch snap? Would you run, or would your instincts betray you in the silence of the Canadian wild? In one of the most haunting clips uploaded to Strange Wilderness, a YouTube channel known for its raw, unfiltered field footage, a hunter set up to quietly observe deer movement was instead dragged into a moment that has left thousands shaken. There's no voiceover, no setup, just a frozen man with a rifle, camouflaged in brush, filming a small herd crossing through morning mist. And then something changes. The man's breathing is steady. His hands don't tremble. A large buck steps from behind a tree at just under 40 yards, unaware of the lens fixed upon it. The hunter pans slowly, keeping focus. It's a perfect moment for anyone studying animal behavior. But then, crack, off camera, to the left. Not the light snap of a twig, but the heavy intentional break of a branch too thick for any average forest creature. What happens next isn't dramatized. It isn't prepared. The hunter's body stiffens. His rifle remains lowered, but the camera jolts as he slowly turns. For a second, all we see is motion blur. Then he locks onto something standing a mere 20 feet behind him. It's tall, thick-bodied, upright, covered in hair from forehead to toe, with a face partially visible through an opening in the brush. Watch yourself. In that brief span, frozen by fear or disbelief, the camera catches what appears to be a face. Wide-set eyes, a flattened nose, brow heavy and set forward. The jaw seems slack, as if mid-breath. It doesn't charge. It doesn't howl. It simply stares, unmoving, sentient. Its gaze is locked in. And that's when the hunter bolts. The camera shakes violently. Branches slap the lens. There is no attempt to keep the shot steady, only the desperate sounds of escape. Boots pounding wet moss, gear clattering. The footage cuts shortly after. No outro, no follow-up, just silence. Viewers picked this one apart frame by frame. Freeze the moment just after the man turns, and you'll catch the outline of the figure standing dead still. Its left arm hangs past the thigh. The fur, dark, matte, possibly matted at the shoulders, moves slightly in the breeze. There's no visible gear, no sign of mask straps or clothing. It's not performing, it's existing. What shakes people the most isn't just the figure's clarity, it's the proximity. This wasn't a distant sighting across a ridge. This thing was close, too close. And if the hunter hadn't heard that one misplaced crack, he might never have known it was there. How long had it been standing behind him? And more importantly, why? There are no signs of pursuit, no growls, no threats, just a stare. But that gaze says more than enough. It wasn't afraid. It was curious, confident, maybe even calculating. And just before the cut, watch closely. The deer that was mid-step suddenly jerks its head to the left. It doesn't sniff. It doesn't wait. It bolts, not like it sensed a predator from afar, but like it recognized something familiar and terrifying. If it were a bear, that reaction might have been delayed, cautious. But this wasn't a bear. The height alone rules that out. This was upright, towering, and the deer ran like it had seen this before, and survived once. The clip ends as suddenly as it began. No chase, no commentary, just the blur of branches and a final abrupt fade to black. So what do you make of it? Do you see the face in the brush? Was the branch break a warning or a mistake? Imagine being in the middle of nowhere, Dry Fork, a remote area of wilderness tucked deep in America's heartland. No traffic, no towns, just tall trees.
Dry Fork. We were here about 6 weeks ago in the Red Cloud area. We found a couple of bedding spots and it looked like some large.
Miles of silence, and a sky so dark that it makes you feel like it is trying to keep secrets. But to the Red Cloud team, that silence was anything but peaceful. They weren't hikers, they weren't campers. They were investigators in the world of unexplained encounters. On this trip, it wasn't ghosts or UFOs they were chasing. It was something far more dangerous.
You know, you got to be out there looking for Bigfoot in almost all conditions, I believe. And it was extremely cold last night.
Bigfoot. It began like most of their expeditions, silent and calm. A bit too quiet. Cameras rolled, flashlights swept the underbrush, and radios came to life with check-ins. But the deeper they went into Dry Fork, the more the woods changed. The energy, the pressure, the pure weight of the place. Something was off. Then, the howls began.
Could have been, could have been. Sure sounded like one.
They were not coyotes, not wolves. These were deep, guttural, and loud enough to shake the trees. Each one sent a fresh jolt of fear through the crew member's spine. It wasn't just the sound, it was the feeling behind it. As if something massive was telling them not to come closer. And then, something moved.
I know there's a lot of guys out there that would film that and say that's a suspect Bigfoot activity, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say it.
Caught in the camera's low-light feed was a figure, tall, broad, and fast. Too fast. It ducked behind a tree just as the cameraman spun around. Nothing. Just thick bushes and pitch black beyond the limit of their lights. But the forest wasn't done.
That root system has to get a certain size before it starts sending up the really good shoots.
And asparagus is so long-lived.
Rocks began to fall near the group. Not natural, not gravity. Thrown, purposefully, from the trees.
Remember when we went up there and I found those ones last year? I cooked all those ones up and they were excellent.
Well, I know that those morels smell really good.
The crew froze in shock. You can hear it in their voices. Half adrenaline, half fear. Someone observed that this seemed like they were being hunted. No one could be heard laughing it off. That's when one of the investigators caught it with night vision.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh. He was going to town on this tree. Wow.
A towering shadow, partially blocked by a bush, standing still, watching, not running away or trying to hide, watching.
If we find anything on those cameras, like I said before, we will show them at the end of this video. Keep on watching. We're going to keep on squatting.
Do you see that? Someone asked, breathless. The camera zoomed in on a grainy but unmistakable image. A broad shape, shoulders are too broad, and glowing eyes reflecting the infrared. It wasn't blinking. The team moved away slowly, respectfully.
On it and see a Bigfoot. Chances are by the time I get my camera up and zoomed in, so I might as well be hunting with it on the other end of the camera.
No one wanted to run, in fear that it might start following or hunting them. You don't run from a predator, especially not one that's been here long before we showed up.
We're gonna do night investigation And then tomorrow we're gonna hike in and pick up our game cameras.
The rest of the night, quiet, dead quiet, too quiet. And that's what scared them most. Back at camp, the team reviewed the video, each clip darker than the last, and each one raising more questions than answers.
See it? Yep. Multicolored. You got grays and browns going from gray.
What had followed them? What had stalked them through Dry Fork? And more importantly, was it still out there waiting for them? One thing's for sure, they went looking for answers and instead found something far more real than a myth.
Quail.
But they're big.
This video was shared by the Rocky Mountain Squatch YouTube channel, shared by someone named Kenneth. The morning was calm, too calm.
At the end of the video, I was walking through camp early morning when I felt like someone or something was watching me up on the ridge.
Kenneth, walking through his campsite by Carson River, felt a strange feeling of being watched. It was a guess, an instinct that most of us would ignore. But Kenneth's gut told him otherwise. Up on the ridge, something didn't feel right.
So he zoomed up in there with his cell phone video, obviously, and...
So he pulled out his cell phone, zoomed in on the area, and began recording. Little did he know, he was about to capture something extraordinary. It started off normal, as most strange encounters do. The camera zoomed in, panning slowly across the ridge. At the far edge of the frame, something moved. A hulking figure, muscular and broad, stood there, seemingly frozen for a moment. It was so tall, so imposing, that at first it seemed like it was completely out of place in the wild.
To show you zoomed before I stabilized it, because sometimes it's a little clearer. I mean, he's zooming way up there with his cell phone. There's the...
And then, in a crazy moment that left Kenneth frozen, it reached up with one arm, grabbed hold of the tree and pulled itself up smoothly. What was strange wasn't just the creature's size. It was how fluidly it moved.
Football player-sized person with all their pads and everything on and hoist themselves up into a tree. All right, I'm going to play it.
Despite its size, the figure hoisted itself up the tree like it had done it 1,000 times before. Impossible for a human or any known creatures. Kenneth's daughter, who had been reviewing the footage later, was the first to spot it.
Show you the zoomed-in clip. And then after the zoomed-in clip, I will stabilize the zoomed-in clip. I just wanted...
Initially, Kenneth had missed it. But once she pointed it out, Kenneth realized the gravity of what he had captured. The footage was grainy, but the figure was undeniable. Was this a person? A huge one, maybe. But the way it moved didn't match anything human. Was it Bigfoot? Could it be? No one was certain. But the video was beyond anything normal.
Okay.
As the video zoomed in and stabilized, the figure became even clearer. It stood taller than any man, its shape wide, bipedal, almost like a football player wearing full gear, but without any equipment. And then the most shocking part of the footage.
You're kind of walking around and then boom, up into a tree. It's just crazy. That thing's huge.
It climbed the tree with the strength and mobility of something far more powerful than any human. The zoomed-in, stabilized video revealed the incredible sight once more. The figure's movement was fluid, and the strength it showed defied what should be possible. Whatever it wasn't like anything they had ever encountered before. Bigfoot or not, it's big, it's fast, and it's up in a tree. That was the final thought as the team reviewed the footage once more. But one thing was clear as day.
Very Bigfooty. It's out of the ordinary, unusual. If that's
The truth was out there, and this was a clue, an important one. Kenneth had captured something that, no matter the answer, no one could ignore.
More time. Amazing footage. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for sending this in to us, Kenneth.
What if the creatures we've all dismissed as myths are actually just hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to be noticed? Diesel in New Jersey isn't your average outdoor channel. They aren't just here for the hike. They're here to take you into the unknown. Boots on the ground, cameras rolling, capturing what most of us wouldn't even believe. This time they return to Area 4, deep in the woods of New Jersey.
It's the second dead animal we've seen here.
Where?
It's over here at the squirrel.
Squirrel?
Yeah.
A place they've visited before. A place known for strange sounds, unexplained figures, and something that seems to be watching from the trees. Come take a walk with them and see for yourself. As they step off the beaten path, the forest is still, too still. The kind of silence that presses on your ears. Then, suddenly someone mutters, "What's that?" Just barely off trail, something shifts. The group stops. Eyes scan the brush, but the answer comes back too quickly. It's a log. Maybe, maybe not. The shape blended too easily into the environment, suspiciously still, like something frozen in mid-motion. Watch for yourself.
A blue balloon over here. Watch this line. See, like blue balloon.
Tension breaks for a moment when someone calls out, "I think I see that animal we seen here." Whatever they saw wasn't a squirrel, but the reference shifts quickly. First squirrel, then, "I see a blue balloon." A child's party decoration out here in the middle of nowhere? Odd, but it's not the first time they've seen it. "The weird thing I visit every time I come here," someone remarks. A spot known to hold on to strangeness like a magnet. Then things get weirder. A squirrel leaps toward the camera, landing near someone's face. Jarring, random, almost symbolic. But it's dismissed as coincidence. Still, the moment shakes the mood. Nature's being chaotic. Or maybe it's being used as a distraction. Another group member casually says, "Look at that axe."
Spray rubber, my face. Ugh. It's on my glasses. You get it? Don't touch the lenses.
But it's not just any axe. It's placed, not dropped. Like it's been used or displayed. Right then, something shifts in the camera's focus. Watch for yourself. Between two trees, wedged into the bark, is a large shape. It's massive, brown, and doesn't move a muscle. Not wind-blown, not vibrating like the leaves around it. A brown, hairy giant. Almost part of the tree, almost carved from it. But the outline is too defined. Shoulders too wide. The camera lingers, unsure. Is this the moment? Is this a Sasquatch? Or a Yeti?
What's that poop? Big ass X.
What stands out isn't just the shape, but the stillness. It's too still. Whatever it is, it's watching or hiding. And Diesel in New Jersey's team knows they've seen something not quite right. They don't scream, they don't run, they observe, they study. That's what makes their footage matter. They return to this area time and again because it gives them something. Patterns, symbols, and encounters that are just clear enough to keep you awake at night. Watch for yourself. As they move on, the team remains quiet, reflective. Even playful moments, mentioning poop, joking about squirrels, are just noise covering the unease, because once you see something that shouldn't be there, everything else starts to feel like a setup, a test. The forest begins to feel staged, like you're being watched from the wings of a play you didn't know you were in. This isn't a film set. There's no CGI, no scripted jump scare, just raw footage. A still figure near a tree that no one can quite explain. Balloons in the woods, squirrels acting strange, objects out of place. These aren't isolated incidents, they're layers of the same mystery.
Like blue balloon. And the weird thing I visit every time I come in.
And every time Diesel in New Jersey returns, something new gets added to that puzzle. Watch for yourself. Not every video ends with a scream or a chase. Sometimes the silence is the scariest thing, the quiet after the encounter, the moment when the footage stops and the mind takes over. And that's exactly what this channel captures. Those subtle but chilling pieces that hint at a larger presence just beyond our understanding. The camera may turn off, but the woods don't forget, and neither will you. Watch again. See what you missed the first time. Maybe that log wasn't a log. Maybe it blinked. What if something's been living just beyond the tree line, watching us, but never making itself fully known? On the quiet edges of New York's Long Island, one man is asking that very question every day. Mike Colantonio, founder of the Long Island Bigfoot YouTube channel, is not your average Sasquatch hunter. He's a military veteran turned boots-on-the-ground researcher with a unique approach.
The most notable was they were just walking the trails.
He doesn't chase monsters. He builds trust. Instead of casting doubt, Mike casts gifts. Fruit, pastries, and even candy are left behind in remote forested areas in hopes that something or someone will accept his offering. But today's investigation, this one's different. Mike isn't in the dense woods or a mountain pass. He's on private farmland because someone called him in. Something strange was happening on this property, and it had been happening for years.
There was a tree, or they thought was a tree, right? Like a big tree that was just...
Watch for yourself as Mike begins surveying the farm perimeter and captures a strange structure deep in the tree line. A twisted, bent arch that resembles what researchers call a break. A structure commonly associated with Sasquatch territory markers.
Most of what's going on is audible. Just hearing things that...
The landowner had told Mike something chilling. One night, while working outside, they saw what they first thought was a tree, but it moved, slowly, like it had intent, like it was watching them.
Fox in here forever. They've had birds of prey in here forever.
Mike listens carefully, never jumping to conclusions, but he knows what they saw lines up with classic Sasquatch behavior. Perfect stillness, camouflage, and deliberate observation. As he walks the property, Mike stops near a gifting site he's visited before. What he finds there makes him pause. An old bait pile, tampered with. Something had taken the fruit, but not in a way a raccoon would. No gnaw marks, just gone.
Look at this. This is very typical. Not 10 feet off trail, we have...
He notices subtle changes in the ground cover, crushed grass, broken stems, and he marks these signs mentally. A trained eye like Mike's doesn't just look for footprints, he looks for patterns. Watch for yourself as Mike quietly scans the brush.
And Snowload doesn't take trees and bend them under other trees.
And catches sight of movement behind the trees. It's fast, barely noticeable, but unmistakable to those who know what to look for.
It's back there. Right in that area. The best part about this place is I always have it to myself.
Moments later, Mike addresses something odd about the forest's energy. He's not alone. There's a distinct, almost emotional pressure. If you've followed his channel, you know he talks about this often, what he calls the quiet presence.
That would be like the tree right there, right? That they described, but it was darker. I said it was like a...
Suddenly, he stops. There's a structure near the base of a tree. 3 large limbs woven together like a low tent, not naturally fallen, placed. Mike kneels, examines it. This isn't wind damage, it's intentional. The type of formation seen time and again in Bigfoot hotspots. He documents everything but touches nothing. Then comes the audio.
We've seen that with the dogmen too. If I can find that photo, I'll drop it in here.
Off camera, the dogs from the nearby farm begin to bark, but not at Mike. Their attention is somewhere else, deeper into the woods. And then, a thud. Watch for yourself as Mike captures a distant knock. 1, then a second, like wood striking wood. It echoes just enough to seem deliberate, as if answering the dogs. This is one of the most commonly reported Sasquatch behaviors, tree knocking.
I remember I was standing in this general area, looking up that way, and there's a ridge that goes up and over, and there was a...
Later in the video, Mike references something unusual, the possibility of a dogman. It's a cryptid many researchers hesitate to even mention, but he doesn't mock the idea.
Big orb. Confused me for a minute, to be honest with you.
He reflects on the shape described by the landowner, a tall, upright figure with a more angular face. Could this land be home to more than one mystery? Mike doesn't try to convince the viewer. He lets the evidence breathe.
Probably a deer. Actually, there's a game trail right there.
His voice is calm, observant, and always respectful toward the land, the people, and whatever else may be listening.
How many people talk about these things and try to communicate them, and then just because it's on the news.
As the sun lowers, Mike offers one last gift to the woods, an apple, and places it gently at the base of a tree. He thanks the forest. Then he leaves. There are no flashy endings here, just questions, a sense that something real happened.
They watched the video of that part. I give them the highlights, reels of it. And,
but not loud enough for the world to hear it all at once. Watch for yourself as Mike exits the forest line and looks back one last time. He pauses, watching something only he can see. For those seeking real, respectful Sasquatch research grounded in experience and quiet observation, Long Island, Bigfoot offers something rare, a voice of calm in a field filled with noise.
There's stuff whistling over here that might be a bird, but back that way there's something mimicking. So on this side there was like...
Could this farm be a meeting point between two worlds? What else might be roaming the edges of our known reality, unseen, but not absent?
We're gonna have to come back here a few times because I forgot how good this spot is in the winter.
So now we ask you, what do you believe? Has science been too quick to dismiss the unknown? Or have we only scratched the surface of what's hiding in our forests? Drop your thoughts below, hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned for real encounters, raw evidence, and the wild truth. Because this journey into the unknown is far from over.